Um, Okay, I'd like to call tonight's city council meeting to order. It is Tuesday, January the 12th, 2021. It is 3 minutes after 7. This meeting is being conducted via Zoom. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pro Tem Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Carl.
I don't see him.
Oh, he's not back yet. Okay, Councilmember Waldman,
He's on.
Here.
Councilmember Weil.
She's absent tonight?
Okay. Is Greg back?
Yes, he is.
Councilmember Carl.
Here.
All right, we're all here except for Maxine. Here.
Hey.
All right, next item.
Item number 2, communications. Mayor, we have no written communications. However, we do have a swearing in of Lieutenant Garrett Wood this evening.
All righty. Let me get to my swearing in document. And am I going to be able to see Lieutenant Wood?
Yes. 1 second, I'm going to be.
Close your eyes, Missy.
I'm looking down. I'm looking down.
There you are. Hello, sir. I'm going to ask you please to raise your right hand and then repeat after me. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, great. I, Garrett Wood, do solemnly swear that I possess all the qualifications to serve as lieutenant for the city of Olivet, St. Louis County, Missouri. That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Missouri. And the charter and ordinances of the city of Olivet. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of this office by abiding by the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As lieutenant, my fundamental duty is to ensure that the Olivet Police Department serves the community. Protects the innocent and respects the constitutional rights of all. Thank you. I understand it is my responsibility and duty to enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored.
Could you repeat that, please, Mayor?
And I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored. Congratulations, Lieutenant Garrett Wood. My brain just Those were too many words. Congratulations. You have been a huge asset to this police department. The role that you played back in November between the family of Kristen Woodard and the Olivet Police Department and a major case squad has done everyone proud. So thank you for all that you've done and congratulations on your promotion.
And Mayor, we're just gonna allow Lieutenant Wood and his wife to take their masks off for a second so we can get a couple photos.
Sure, absolutely. Congratulations again.
Mayor, I don't know if Chief Wolf wants to say anything now or
Chief?
not.
I just want to really, Madam Mayor, just echo your thoughts. It was a very good process, the promotion process from sergeant to lieutenant. And again, just echoing your thoughts about what an asset Lieutenant Wood is to the police department and really how excited we are to have him in this position as we move forward. So,
Thank you, Chief. Is there anything else? Anyone else want to say anything?
Madam Mayor, if I could,
Sure.
Lieutenant Wood comes from the beginning backgrounds of a social worker, working at a state level, working with kids that are disadvantaged. And he's worked his career up the chain of command from a social worker to community to police enforcement and now to our lieutenant. I am extremely proud of you as a fellow social worker and seeing you move up the line and still have your commitment to the community and to people at large. God bless you.
All right.
And just so the folks at home know, the process that was used, it's an extensive process. There's a formal testing. There's an interview with a committee, and that committee's made up both of law enforcement officials from outside of the city, as well as residents, business owners and residents from the city. And then there's the chief's interview. And then there's a final interview with me. And so I want to thank everyone who participated in the interview process. And that's why Ken is here this evening as one of the business owners in our city. And it really, I think it helps everybody make sure that, we're all in this together. We all, we work together on things. And I think nothing says that more than when you help pick the people. So thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Lieutenant Wood, and thank you all for the family for coming as well.
All right. We'll move on to the next item, please.
Item number 3, city manager's report.
Ms. Sondak?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Bring up my, there we are. Oops. All right. Okay. The work continues. It's actually doing a pretty good, at a pretty good pace. Kelp Contracting is the contractor that MSD is using on the Cherry Tree stormwater main replacement. And we've talked before about what a tight place this is, tight space this is. And I think this picture taken by our Public Works Director, Bruce McGregor, really illustrates what we're talking about here. That's the street. And you can see that's a pretty big main. They'll be finishing up on Cherry Tree this week, and then they'll be moving north to Crabapple Court, and they're hoping to have the project completed by the end of January, which is just, it's phenomenal that they're able to continue to move, that the weather has cooperated the way it has. Have a lot of updates on a variety of things. Few of these are just updates on updates. I think the last time we met in December, I stated that the Planning Community Development Department was going to be starting their new work on their new permitting software that has started as of January 2nd. So far, things are going really pretty well. We've had a couple of things, but they're just minor, fixes that need to occur. So far it's been a good process. So it's a learning curve, as everyone knows, when you get a new software program. So we'll continue to update you on that progress, and maybe hopefully once we get they get a little bit more used to the system, they'll be able to maybe come and present to the council and the residents kind of really what the system does. I told you that we were in the final review for our municipal relief program grant. That's the MRP grant through the county CARES program. I was notified this week that we received the grant funds, and that they should be deposited into our account within the next week or so. That's a little over $533,000. Again, we had to show that we have already expended that money. That is money coming back, but it does definitely assist with the budget for this current fiscal year 21. The Park and Recreation Department, they are continuing to move some of their classes online. I think Strength, Tone, and Fitness is now moving online. That's a really, it's pretty exciting change for us. They're doing it through Zoom. And so really recommend that people go back to the Park and Recreation Department page on the city's website and kind of see what we have to offer. So again, we kind of started out trying to figure out, well, how will this work? And it's been working. So that's an exciting benefit for both the staff and the residents, I think, and participants are very happy. And I want to thank the leaders of those groups who, really, they're the ones who had to feel comfortable taking their in-person class online. And for some of those folks, that was a pretty big change. So it's really great, I think, for the community. The MSD project that's occurring at I-170 in Olive, they're going to need some additional lane closures. On my way back to the office this evening, there were two of the eastbound lanes were closed. They'll be going to be working nights this week to locate gas, water, and other utilities. There are just a ton of utilities that travel under Olive Boulevard. It's really a big project anytime you have to do any boring under Olive, just to make sure you don't hit anything. Appreciate the work these guys are doing, and also the fact that they're trying to do it at night to lessen the impact on the traffic. Missouri American Water is also taking advantage of our exceptional weather, and they're going to be completing the pavement restoration at Marbrook. That's been kind of a long time coming, and I appreciate the residents of Marbrook for their patience. And just let the council know that all of it, firefighters / paramedics have received their first vaccination for COVID-19. They're actually working towards the second vaccination. They were on one of the first groups to be vaccinated, and that's because of they are frontline healthcare workers. So I think that's very positive for our residents. Some updates on some of the construction that we have going on. The Oliver construction continues there. You can see the parking garage has been up for a while now. You can see the placement of the footings for the apartment complex has begun, and it's really neat if you can drive by, once or twice a week, just to see a building rise from the ground. It's pretty exciting. Olive Crossing at I-170 and Olive, formerly known as the Gateway. We sent out letters to the taxing districts to let them know that the council was reconvening the Olivet TIF Commission. We're anticipating that the first meeting of the commission, and this will be just kind of their first meeting, kind of an organizational meeting, will be February 8th. That's yet to be kind of finalized, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We've talked a couple of times about a possible development, residential development at Irvington. And that's Opus Development that's working on that. They are slowly kind of moving forward. Representatives from Opus are going to be coming before the Planning Commission in January at the end of the month to discuss their proposed plans. The Dealman Road redevelopment, those are the property that the city owned across from the city center. The council sold that property to Douglas Properties, and with the intention, he is attempting to assemble the other properties along that strip. He's making some headway on that. And so the plan for that is to construct some townhomes on that area. So that's, again, kind of a slowly moving project. And I think at this point in time, it's pretty much all we can expect is a slow move. Had a meeting with Firestone this week and representatives for that development at the southeast corner of Olive and Dealman. They are working, hoping to begin construction in the spring of this year. They're waiting on a couple other permits but then they're really ready to go. Staff's going to be working with coordinating the work where Olivet and Bloom has their gardens, coordinating some of the help and moving some of the plants that are there. And then they'll be coming back, as the council recalls, there's going to be a new water feature there and other improvements, park improvements in that little memorial area. Easy Storage, a couple months ago, the council approved entering into an agreement with Easy Storage to have a financial analysis done. I'm hoping to have the first draft of that analysis done this week. So again, slow and steady, I guess, is our theme this evening. Very excited. This seems at times slow and steady and at times incredibly fast paced. It's the development of our new community center and park improvements. On the community center, we're really getting close to finishing up our design development and moving into construction documents. We're hoping to have go out for bid for a general contractor in April. And so we're ready to hold a couple of informational meetings just to bring the residents up to speed on where we're at. The first meeting is going to be January 27th at 7 p.m. These will all both be by Zoom. And we're going to focus on the community center, the design, and then also improvements to the improvements at Warson Park. That will also get a little bit into the Centennial Greenway. The second meeting will be February 10th at 7 p.m. That meeting will focus more on those other four parks, Stacy, Villa, Irvside, Indian Meadows, and again, the Centennial Greenway that kind of moves through that section of Indian Meadows and connects to Warson Park will also be part of that discussion. We will have displays available during the presentation. We will, Beverly Tucker Knight, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, our Parks Director, is also working on a microsite so that people can go to the city's website and really look and study the improvements and the designs that we have thus far. The park improvements are running a little behind the community center. They are just getting ready to finish up with conceptual design on those. And so they're running just a little bit behind, but that's really how we planned it, because we wanted to get into construction as the seasons change. As I said, we're looking right now going out to bid in April, and we're hoping to have maybe a groundbreaking in August, September of this year. Coming up, we have Economic Development Commission is meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. Coffee with the Mayor via Zoom will be January 19th at 8:45 a.m. The mayor's guest is going to be Rick Knox. He's a retired police chief from Olivet, but he currently works as the executive director of the Major Case Squad in the area. And what he's going to talk about is really has to do with the Major Case Squad and what makes it so interesting and so effective in our area and solving some of the more horrendous crimes that we have. Park and Recreation Commission is January 20th at 7 PM. Planning and Community Design Commission is on January 21st. Council's next regular meeting will be January 26th. And as I said, we will be having a public informational meeting concerning the new community center on January 27th at 7 PM. With that, I am happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Council, is there anyone? Go ahead, Missy.
Thank you, Mayor. Barb, do we know whether the Firestone property has closed yet between George and the developers?
That is not, that is anticipated to happen within the next month or so.
Okay. And if I could follow up, please, on the Marbrook Street. You're right now it looks pretty cruddy. It's filled with asphalt. Are they going to be replacing that with cement equal to the cement that is that street? Are they intending to smooth out, chip out, and then put asphalt all the way up that line where they had to, open up the street? Do you know?
I am assuming if it's concrete now, it will be replaced with concrete, but I don't know for sure. I'd have
Is
to
there a
ask our
way-
public works director.
Okay. Could you inquire on that and follow up? I am curious based upon, I know at one time the mayor and I were deeply concerned with how the utilities handled our streets right after we had brand new ones. And this is a new street and I'm concerned about it. Thank you.
It continues to be an issue for all of us when we have something like this. And then one of the utilities comes up. The utilities tend not to do their own paving. And so we have gotten, I think Bruce has developed a relationship with a lot of the companies that are contracted with to come in and do this work. But I think that I hear your concern and share it.
Is there anyone else that has a question for the city manager? All right, we're going to move on to the next item.
Item number 4, city council reports.
I will start with Councilmember Carl.
Didn't know because I'm on the top of the screen.
So you're at the bottom of my screen. But
Oh,
it's
I'm at the bottom. I don't know. I always wind up at the top of my screen. Maybe Zoom does that just to make everyone feel important. I don't know. Anyway, I have not attended any meetings, but there is an Economic Development Commission meeting this Thursday, and one of the topics they will also discuss is this Opus development. So I just will throw that out there. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Waldman.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Planning Community Design Commission meeting where they continued to have their conversations with regard to urban agriculture as well as stormwater runoff. And I don't know whether I reported this last time, but I attended the last park meeting on behalf of Councilmember Weil. And at that meeting, they were presented the same park plan that we saw as council member a few days before. The Planning Community Design Report is always updated and given to the council by Mr. Trejo. So you have your reports with which to follow anything else regarding that meeting. And that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember, Chairman Pro Tem Clark. I think you said you had nothing to report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Oh, at this time, I couldn't lip read that. Sorry. All right, I have not attended any additional meetings myself either, but I do want to update the council since the new legislators out in Jeff City have been sworn in and the legislative bodies are now back in session. The Municipal League legislative agenda and priorities were set several months ago, and Wayfair is a top priority for the league. For those who don't know what Wayfair is the state of Missouri's ability to collect tax from out-of-state sales by Missouri businesses. If Wayfair did pass, there will be a lot of other pieces of legislation that will also need to be amended in order to accommodate Wayfair. So there's a lot of work still to be done out there. I don't know if they can do them in one fell swoop or not, but it's a little complicated for that. But we do hope, as a league, we are working diligently to get this path, to convince the senators and representatives out there that this needs to get passed, and I will keep you apprised as it moves through. And that is all. We can move on to the next item.
Item number 5, hearing from citizens. And Mayor, I have an email that was sent in also for this
Oh.
portion.
Okay, well, let's go over the rules, and then I'm going to ask you to read that, and then I'll get to anybody here that wants to speak. So the person who sent that in, if they are a participant, we're going to read the email, and that, I guess that's your hearing from citizens contribution then, unless you.
Mayor, I asked the folks who had sent in something writing if they wanted to read it themselves, and they have asked that it be read by
Okay.
the clerk.
All right. So we are in the hearing from citizens portion of the meeting. If you wish to address the council, you will have 3 minutes. We'll bring you over. Barb will bring you over. You will kindly state your name and address for the record. We'd love to have your video on so we can see you as you see us. That, of course, is your choice. You will address all your comments to the chair, which is the mayor, and you will keep them at 3 minutes or less. So Denise, if you are ready to read that email, why don't you read that email first, or whatever, however many emails that you have, and then I will ask if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak.
Okay, I have 3.
Okay.
The first one I received was from Gloria, and pardon me if I mispronounce any names, Golenda. Dear City Council members, I wish to support the Dark Skies application for certification of Stacy Park. I also look forward to special events in the parks related to the certification. Sincerely, Gloria Golenda, citizen and member of the Olivet in Bloom Board. The second one was from Liz Little regarding bill number 2943. Dear council members, my name is Liz Little. I reside at 3 Lisa Drive. I would like to speak this evening briefly regarding the amending of the ordinance 2704. I am one of the main reasons this issue has come to light and has been brought before you. I think it's important to have clearly defined codes, rules for all citizens of the community to abide by, as well as city officials to uphold. I am in agreement that permits for flagpoles, basketball hoops, and typical use items close to a residence should have a streamlined approach to the permitting process. I think that is very reasonable. It is typical for homeowners to have and want these things, and streamlining that process makes sense. What is worrisome for me are the unique and undefined structures outside of the typical footprint of a home, structures that set well behind a home, usually for a reason. The homeowner does not want it next to their residence, such as a batting cage. I am concerned that these innocuous structures would not have the proper oversight. I do not think that type of decision should be determined by one zoning administrator. We need checks and balances, not one person who has been given all the power. That is why we are in this situation now. For these unique innocuous type structures, a trigger for site plan and review with PCDC needs to be in place. More hands and eyes need to be involved versus the discretion of one person. I invite all of you to view the property that has been the center of this from my rear yard. You can see what happened under the authority of one zoning official and how it is affecting all the surrounding neighbors on Lisa Drive, Nantucket Lane, and Morrison Road. I urge you seriously to consider having site plan and review to be part of the permitting process for structures that fall outside of the home footprint, not at the discretion of one person's authority, but a part of a system for checks and balances. I think it is a lot of responsibility to be given to the one individual, and I think this is a very reasonable solution. Sincerely, Liz Little. And the last one I have is from Carol in Rochester. I am requesting that my concerns be heard tonight at the council meeting. I am writing to express my concerns regarding expanding the zoning administrator's ability to independently approve variations to the accessory structure ordinance when issuing permits. I do not feel we should be expanding the zoning administrator's ability to make independent decisions. Rather than expanding the ability of the zoning administrator and increasing his or her ability to make judgment calls, which also puts them in a difficult spot, Any energy spent toward revising the ordinance language regarding accessory structures should be devoted to making ordinances more specific and concrete. For the last 2.5 years, our street has been suffering from issues largely stemming from loosely worded ordinances, which then have placed the zoning administrator in a situation where he has had to exercise discretion. That is a discretion that would ultimately force the street to retain a lawyer. Here are 3 quick examples of discretion leading to problems. 1, a permit was issued retroactively after a neighboring homeowner already completed work and no consequences to the homeowner were issued. 2, a permit was issued to install a 4-foot, 14-inch high concrete poles on a permit for fencing. The zoning administrator made an independent decision at that time to allow a structure to be approved on a permit designated for fencing. This was only discovered because of neighbors that didn't want 14-foot high poles in their backyard. Number 3, a decision by the zoning administrator that a permit has not been necessary on a 2-acre size lot where grading with commercial size and now buried drain pipes, rented bobcats and tractors, and truckloads of dirt have repeatedly occurred. Now we have neighbors complaining of flooding on their properties that never occurred before this work began. Given these examples just in the last 2 years alone, I do not believe we want to be giving more discretion to one person in our city. In summary, I believe that neither the citizens nor the zoning administrator want to face uncertainty when trying to apply for a permit. Instead, energy should be devoted to inserting more specific, concrete parameters, limits, and guidelines for what is and what is not allowed in Olivet. Reviewing neighboring cities' ordinances and the recommendation of our city attorney are all good places to start when revising our accessory structure ordinance. Thank you for your time and attention. Carolyn and Sean Rochester.
Thank you, Denise. All right, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak, kindly raise your hand, and Barb will bring you over. And as I said, please, if you can put your video on, that would be great. And limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Address them to the chair. Barb, would you please bring Mr. Hanson over?
Okay, I believe Mr. Hanson should be able to speak. He's just need to take yourself off mute.
All right, I believe I did, and I
Awesome.
can't turn on my video, but I apologize for that. Mayor, I'd just like to take a minute and thank Dave Alder and his daughter. They found my wedding ring actually on the sidewalk of all places. And, you know, a lot of people in this world would not have said anything. They actually worked with a neighbor, Julie Timley, and posted it on Nextdoor. My wife was able to find it after being very upset with me that I did lose it. And I just wanted to thank them. They just show what a great community Olivet is.
Mr. Hanson, actually, I saw that post and I saw your wife's response to it and I thought, wow, you are one lucky man that they found that ring and you didn't have a lot of explaining to do at home. So yeah, that was really fascinating that they were able to find that. So, you know, good for you. And you're right. We are very fortunate to have really, really honest people who live here and want to work to help each other. So you had a very lucky day that day.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? All right, I don't see anybody else's hand up. I don't see anything else in the chat. So we are going to move on to into the agenda. Next item, please.
Item number 6, Bill number 2943, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2704 of the city of Olivet, Missouri by revising the city's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to provide funding for capital purchases. First and second reading.
Good evening, Mayor. I think I'll take this one if that's okay, Barb.
Yep.
Good. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. I brought the wrong one. It's this one right here. Yes. Oh, good. All right. So tonight we do have I kind of introduce what the process, what we're going to what we're trying to accomplish here is first, amendment itself. We did speak about this last Tuesday for the possibility of what we're going to see here tonight. But first, this is a budget amendment for some capital purchases. Some of them have to do with some COVID kind of related safety expenditures in the fire department, and then also for the community center and parks plan implementation is going a little bit faster than I had anticipated back in May and the beginning of June, and so we're asking for an additional $500,000 to be added to the cost that we have, which is currently $1 million. First, I will say that we did do our first reading here. I'm going to ask if we could set aside our normal rules and read this for the second time tonight because of the need to have some action tonight on one of the capital items.
Okay. All right, I'll ask the council to vote on that. We need to have this read, please, for the first time.
If you could just, if someone could make the motion to set aside the regular rules so that
Okay.
you could read it a second time.
All right. Could somebody please make,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to set aside the ordinary rules. Read it for a second
Second.
time.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. I need to open this up for public comment, correct?
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that objects to having us read this twice tonight? If so, please raise your hand and we will hear your comment. I don't see anybody's hand up. All righty, council, any comments or questions? All righty, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
all right.
Want to read it for a second time?
Yep, let's read it. Yeah, if Denise could read it for a second time.
Madam Mayor,
Okay.
I make a motion that we read Bill 2943 for a second time for final passage.
Hold on, Denise has to read it first. And then Darren's
Don't-
gonna explain it to us and then then I'll ask for the motion.
We don't need that. We don't need the motion to read it for a second time. You've already set aside your regular rules. So Denise is just now going to read it for a second time.
Bill number 2943, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2704 of the city of Olivet, Missouri by revising the city's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to provide funding for capital purchases.
All right, now, Darren, are you gonna explain to us what we're doing here?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd like to explain some of the mechanics, and it just so happened that how the agenda worked out tonight, that we are going to be doing a lot of our capital approvals in just one night. Usually it's not something that was planned, but it is how everything kind of came together. So it does work good that we can take care of a lot of this stuff, or kind of, it's almost like a mid-year check on what we're actually looking at here tonight. But first, for the bill itself, like I said, the implementation of the Parks Master Vision Plan is occurring at a little bit faster pace than we had anticipated during our budgeting process. And just to be a little bit unsafe, it's more of a housekeeping thing. I'm asking for an additional $500,000 in expenditures for this fiscal year. To kind of put that in perspective, this is just a timing issue. The bond proceeds are what the kind of the revenue source for this, and it will be spent over time over the next several years. This is just moving, kind of anticipating spending more in this fiscal year than we had anticipated it back in May and June. So then moving on from there, that's one of the pieces that I'm going to bring up a little bit of an illustration of where this is coming from in just a second, along with this other part, the second part of this, which is for capital purchases in the fire department. $22,000 in total, and that's made up of $11,000 to purchase additional regulators. And I'll let the fire chief explain a little bit of that, why we would need more and what the regulators are used for here in a little bit. And then the final 11,000, that's not gonna add, yeah, 11,000 is to purchase fire gear, which is called bunker gear, but it's the gear that everyone that kind of associates with the fireman or a firefighter, where it has it's fire resistant, heat resistant kind of big coats and coats and pants and boots and such. And this is more of a timing thing with the ordering of when this was ordered and when it was delivered in FY21. And I'll kind of explain a little bit here in just a second what we see there. If we have any questions on these specific items, I can definitely field them as I kind of get ready for this next step. So do we have any questions at this spot right here?
Anybody?
Just a quick question.
Huh?
If we should get more funding for COVID, I assume the regulators we are buying, because it's due to COVID, would fall in that category as an eligible COVID expense? Probably.
It would depend on the timing.
Yeah.
And that's right. And I would say it depends. I'm sorry. It does depend, but I would say yes, it definitely would be eligible under those things. And we're going to see here a little bit maybe why we wouldn't want to do that, or maybe why we would. And so what I did, I brought up the city's webpage too. I'm just going to walk through, like I said, go to the finance side, kind of like a mid-year checkup about what we're actually looking at right here. If we go to the budget, the budget summary itself, and if anybody's attended a budget meeting before, you'll recognize this. It's page 59 on the thing. But anyway, here's our little summary sheet, and this is our quick look about, are these things in balance, or what are we looking at here? And this right here, this column is projected excess and deficit, and kind of putting a lot of this meeting together is a lot of the CARES, this municipal relief program, falls into this, helps out a lot of this deficit that was budgeted, $321,000. It was budgeted as a deficit. Another thing I'm going to add on to here is we're going to see some softening in our sales taxes, I think. And the budgeting for the revenue for sales taxes did not involve much of a downturn past December. And we do know that things are a little bit, that's not the case. The COVID shutdown is not done at this point. We don't know really what the future would hold. So those are the kind of things where you say it depends. If we go back to this next line, the capital improvement fund, it was deficit budgeted at $274,000. And with this amendment, that will not change. And that will not change because the fire operations fund, 2 lines down, is actually where this, the ordinance or the bill calls for an increase in the transfers from that fund also. So with that there, we can see there was a positive or an excess projected for fiscal year 21 of 110,000. That'll leave us at around a $90,000 excess for FY21. So the transfers here will go up. This number will go up. This number will go up, and so will this one right here to read the same number right there. And then finally, the debt service and construction, which is where our community center and the parks implementation and vision plan is going. The cost will come out of this fund right here. And you can see here that it's a very large revenue number with a very large excess projected for FY21. And then this number right here will go up 500. That 500,000 will be, essentially deducted from a future year, 23, 24, as the master and vision plan is implemented. I'm going to stop there with anything that might, if we need to clarify, go into further detail, I will. I'm going to take this a step further and go to the capital purchase document itself after this.
Questions? Okay, I think Darren covered this for us on Tuesday, so.
Sure. Yep. If we go to the capital, back to the webpage and the capital improvement plan, I'm going to skip back one more. This number right here, $2,064,700, and then this deficit number we talked about shows up on page right here, 274,800. This is FY21. These numbers here are the capital outlays, and the only reason I bring this up is tonight. This third column of numbers is our FY21. These are what is approved as of right now. That goes back to dates back to June. I will make this a little bit bigger because we're not going to be talking about anything below this yellow line. Those are done. The salt enclosure is, as far as I know, is still planned for construction, but we needed to get rid of the salt pile as much as possible before that work began. Street repair was to be contract street repair. The Dealman Road North is already under contract with Spencer Contracting, so we won't need to see any approvals for that. Just updates from the Public Works Director and from the City Manager. And tonight, we have already approved the fire pumper for purchase back in May or June. So that is still anticipated for this year. It might be into FY22. See that? Structural firefighting gear. That's the fire gear we're going to talk about tonight. That's one of the numbers that'll be will be increasing by 11,000. That number right there. SCBA, which is the same as it falls in the same category as the regulators. The amounts that we're budgeted in there right now are called RIT packs. If we have any curiosity about that, we have a person here tonight that will be shed any light we want on RIT packs or any of the parts of an SCBA, including the regulators are. The amounts in here, $10,000 is where you as the council will start to see amounts come to you. So these things, the lift bags, vests, and firehouse, the stove in the firehouse. We won't see anything at the council level, but those projects are underway. We will see the patrol vehicles tonight, vehicle laptops, and also the surveillance system. So we're going to hit this all in one night, not by plan, but it will. That's kind of the summary for tonight. Other thing I would say here is that the bunker gear is an amendment for over $10,000 at $11,000. You will see that as a council as a purchase that is over $10,000. We will see that at the next meeting or maybe the one after that. So there'll be more explanation there, which means the spending for the parks and master plan implementation, those $500,000 are more than likely covered under contracts you've already approved, which is KEI and Navigate. We won't see anything with that. We might see another contract approval at the council level for by the end of this year. We might see it for the contractor for the maintenance building in the community center. That will be approved by here, of course, as a really large contract. And so you won't see anything from that. We will see the regulators tonight, which is another component of this amendment, and we will see the bunker gear at the next meeting or the one after that as an item over 10,000. So sorry to be a little long-winded, but I think it just so happens we get to see everything all in one night and kind of see some of these documents tie together.
Questions for Mr. Mann? Okay. Then I will ask for a motion that has to do with the second, a motion.
Well, you want a
Right.
motion on the bill right now? At this
Mhm.
point, we've had the
Yes.
second. Okay,
I want a
so-
motion on the bill.
All right, so, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Bill 2943, an ordinance amending ordinance 2704 of the city of Olivet, Missouri by revising the city's fiscal, fiscal year 2021 budget to provide funding for capital purchases.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any final comments or questions? I think it's been pretty well explained why we need to do this. Some of this is procedural. We need to do some of the movement because we have to fund the community center project. And some of it is out of necessity to get things that we need to do. So if there are no further comments, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2943 becomes ordinance number 2716.
Have to fix that.
I will.
Yeah, it's 27.
That's my fault.
Next item, please.
Item number 7, purchase of 9 regulators for the Scott Self-Contained Breathing Apparatus, SCBA.
Okay, Mayor, I'm bringing over Chief Steve Carmen, who's going to talk with the council about that.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay. My name is Steve Carmen, Fire Chief for the City of Olivet Fire Department. Good evening, Ms. Sondag, Madam Mayor, and City Council. When firefighters enter hazardous conditions, SCBA systems are used. Each of these systems require a regulator to allow exhaled air to flow out of the system as fresh air from the tank is inhaled by the user. The Olivet Fire Department currently operates and maintains 14 Scott SCBA air packs. While wearing a face mask with a regulator is very personal to our firefighters, our firefighters are currently sharing regulators. Even though the regulators being cleaned and sanitized after each use, this is still very much a less than ideal and very unhygienic practice, especially in the current environment of COVID-19 where social distancing and hygiene are being stressed, encouraged, and even some instances mandated to promote healthy conditions. Even with proper sterilization and cleaning, there is a high probability that a regulator still contains bacteria and germs which may transfer to other people, leading to the spreading of viruses and disease, therefore putting our entire fire department and thus our community at risk. The City of Olivet Fire Department is requesting the purchase of 9 Scott regulators, which would provide the department with a total of 23, allowing each firefighter to have their own regulator. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the chief? All right, Chief, I think you explained that beautifully in your presentation, and you did speak to us about it last time. So I don't think that there's anybody that would disagree with your assessment here. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the purchase of 9 Scott regulators from Leo Ellenbrock Company at cost not to exceed $11,871.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there final comments or questions for the chief or for anybody? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Stop sharing.
Next item, please.
Item number 8, resolution number 2021-203, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a service agreement with Turnkey Mobile Inc. for the provision of software, hardware, and services related to the city's video monitoring system.
Okay, Mayor, I'm going to bring over Chief Wolf. And then I will bring up for the council the actual article.
Okay,
Good evening again.
good
Good
evening.
evening, Chief. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Wasn't sure you could hear me there.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Sonda. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So this item is in reference to the city center's video system. And basically the system that is in place now, some of that hardware was brought over from the old City Hall building in 2017. And it is at a point now where it is not facilitating our needs here for the entire city center. And so we are looking to purchase new server hardware, as well as a new maintenance agreement, as well as services from Turnkey Mobile, who is a Genetec vendor. Genetec is the name of the software company that the system uses, and Turnkey is an authorized vendor of that software. And so we are looking for a motion so that we can go ahead and purchase those items. The project was in the approved budget for FY21. $20,000 had been budgeted for the new server, and $10,000, and that was out of capital. And then $10,000 had been budgeted out of the police department's operating expenses for the service agreement and the new license. So this does come in at $26,364, just slightly under budget. That is pretty much the explanation of it. You do have included in the packet the service agreement with Turnkey Mobile, as well as their quote, as well as a quote from Certified Nets, who is the IT provider, the managed IT provider for the city, who will help with implementation of this project.
Are there questions for the chief?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize. I thought you were done.
No, I was just saying I would answer any questions if there are any.
That's what I was asking for. Are there any questions for the chief? Go ahead, Missy.
Thank you. Chief, could you, maybe I missed something, but could you describe to me, or should I not be asking this question, Paul Martin? What does the city's video monitoring system do? What is it video monitoring?
So the video monitoring system is, it references all of the surveillance cameras that are that are inside the city center, as well as that monitor the outside property.
Okay. Okay. And what we originally had, we used from old stuff from the old city hall, and we are now updating to better software.
So yes and no. So some of, most if not all of the cameras that we currently use were purchased in 2017 when we moved to the new building. The computer itself, as well as the software, were brought over from the old building. So that server is it's just not meeting our needs anymore. And the service agreement on the software has just reached an expiration date at the end of this month. And so we're looking to upgrade that.
I get it. Thanks for that reference and recollection. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? I can't see all of you. Hold on. No? Greg? No? Okay. All right. I do have a couple questions, if I may. You went out to bid for this, I'm assuming, and you chose Turnkey Mobile. Obviously, as a government entity, we tend to choose the lowest bidder and all of that. But are there other police departments that use Turnkey Mobile that we know of?
There are several. So Turnkey Mobile is actually based out of Jefferson City, Missouri.
Okay.
But there are several departments, some of which are in the ECDC consortium that actually use Turnkey Mobile services. And with the their ability to be able to remote into our system, as well as coordinate with Certified Nets, the city's IT management company, so far, just in configuration of the project, everything has been working very well.
Okay. All right. Because that's important. Actually, the consideration of ECDC is equally as important too. So that's great. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's great. Anybody else? Last questions, comments? All right. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 21203, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Turnkey Mobile, Inc. to replace server hardware and enter into a one-year service agreement for services and support of the city's video monitoring system.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any final thoughts or questions? All righty. Please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, please.
Item number 9, approval to purchase 6 replacement patrol vehicle laptops and related accessories.
I guess that's you too, chief.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Carlos. This is going to be kind of like the Carlos show.
No, it's usually the Bruce show. Bruce
He's
stands there. He'll get the skid loader and something else and something else. So you're like the Bruce show now.
got a little height on me though, but other than that, we're good.
You're all asking for toys. That's what it is.
Yep,
Good
yep.
things come in small packages.
There you go. So yes, so this item is to purchase replacement laptops for the 6 patrol vehicles. As you'll recall, in the past, we used to purchase 3 new laptops one year and then 3 the following year. One of the things in consulting with Certified Nets, again, the city's IT provider, it was really determined that better off to purchase them all at once, get them all on the same replacement cycle, get them all updated at the same time, all operating the same way. And so one of the changes that we've made, just for background information, is what has been in our cars for years is a fully rugged Panasonic laptop.
Mhm.
My thinking was that we did not need to, we could use the semi-rugged laptops because we don't ever take those laptops out of the car unless they're going in for service, and then the laptops go in a cabinet. So it's not as if they're being bounced around in the field or dropped in the sand or dropped in the mud. And so the replacement for these, it just made more sense to do this, to do the semi-rugged. Turnkey Mobile, again, who we are, you just approved the service agreement with for Genetec. They actually have a cooperative contract with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department for these devices. And so we are able to, if approved, we're able to purchase under that contract as well. And so you'll see that we're switching computers. Because we are switching computers, there is an added expense of getting the new docking stations for the vehicles. You'll see that we budgeted $27,000 in capital for this. The bid did come out at $28,050. So we are, full disclosure, $1,050 over. I'd like to address that now in that when we go to, and you'll see when we go to the next item, which I believe is vehicles, we're going to be saving money on the capital expense there. I believe the city manager does have the authorization. We're not actually moving it from account to account. We're moving it within the account. And I think she does have the authorization, if approved, to utilize $1,050 from capital to make up this difference here. You'll see in the packet, there is the turnkey mobile quote. There's the VIP public safety is who we typically use for upfitting for our vehicles. When we have equipment installed, typically they come out very beneficial in terms of bidding as well as service. You'll see a quote in there for Certified Nets for their configuration of the machines, and then also included is the cooperative agreement with Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. So I would be happy to answer any questions.
Question?
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
who is that cooperative agreement with the Jefferson County? Is that between Turnkey and Jefferson County, or I didn't review this?
Correct. So yes,
Go ahead.
so that is between Turnkey Mobile and Jefferson County, the Jefferson County government.
And that is for our strength and purposes of knowing that we will get prices at their value?
Yes, so they have,
Okay.
that is an agreement that they have allowed to be a cooperative agreement for other agencies in the state of Missouri. And so we're able to take advantage of that.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Are there other questions? In terms of this Panasonic semi-rugged, is that what typically other departments use that don't take their computers out of the cars other than to service them?
So yeah, good question. And there are, of course, other manufacturers that make rugged or semi-rugged computers that are typical for police use because they are getting, somewhat moved around in the cars and, you know, moved into the dashboard and things like that. But in terms of not being fully rugged, certainly the Panasonic semi-rugged is a very popular model for, you know, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department just bought 150. St. Louis County Police Department uses the semi-rugged in all of their vehicles, which is into the several hundreds of them. So it's an extremely popular model in terms of, I mean, both fully rugged and semi-rugged, but yes, it is a popular model in terms of the semi-rugged.
Are these going to have any delivery delays for you? Do you expect to
I
get
mean,
them?
not, as far as I know, no. I mean, you know, from what they're telling me, once we place the order, you know, obviously there is going to be somewhat of a lead time, but I am not anticipating anything that is crazy extended from what I've been told so far.
Okay. I'm curious if it does, just let me, I'm just curious more than
Sure.
anything about, because supply chains have been so disrupted, and they're not really back yet completely. So I'd be curious to know.
I know that, I mean, just to this point, I know that also included in our operating budget was a laptop to be used by our major case investigators. And I believe Mr. Mann placed that order and that was filled very quickly.
Okay, great. That's great. All right. If there are no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the purchase of 6 Panasonic FZ55 rugged, semi-rugged tech tough books and related accessories from Turnkey Mobile, as well as installation and configuration by VIP Public Safety and Certified Nets respectively, not to exceed $28,050.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final thoughts or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 10, approval to purchase 2 replacement vehicles for the Olivet Police Department Administration.
Well, we already know it's you.
Yes, again, I am David Wolf. I'm the Chief of Police with the Olivet Police Department, and this item pertains to the purchase of 2 new vehicles for the department administration. Again, included in the budget. Actually, the document says operating budget. It's our capital budget for FY21. Did include these vehicles. We had originally the original plan was to continue with purchasing Chevy Tahoes as we're trying to do with our patrol division, and purchase Chevy Tahoes for administration. After discussions during COVID and just other events of the past year, the decision was made that we would purchase Dodge Chargers. And so they are a less expensive vehicle. They're smaller, but I think that Major Andruski and I will, we'll do just fine with those. So the original budget was for $85,000. These 2 vehicles with upfitting and equipment won't exceed $65,220. So there is a bit of a savings there, which again, as I alluded to in the last item, with Ms. Sondag's authorization, we would just move $1,050 of that savings to cover the cost of those laptops.
Okay. Are there any questions for the chief?
I do, and this really is, I guess, a girl doesn't know vehicles kind of a question. But every Dodge Charger, in my mind, is only a 2-door. Am I missing something here?
So I think you might be thinking of the Challenger.
That's the check.
Oh,
So the Challenger is a 2-door, the Charger is the 4-door.
I told you it was a girly thing. Okay, thanks.
And I am not a car guy either. I just happen to know that one.
All right.
Will these be the ones with the Hellcat engines in them?
That, if you approve it, I'm good with it.
Okay. As long as I can drive it on the weekend.
Deal.
Anybody else? Which vehicles are these replacing?
So these will replace my vehicle and Major Andruski's vehicle, which are two Chevy Impalas.
Okay.
And
Okay,
then those will be actually moved. One will go to the Detective Bureau and one will probably go to the Building Department.
okay. I do have a question when it comes time to replace the Tahoe or the other car,
Well,
Expedition.
so right now we have 3 Ford Tauruses. Well, they're built on the Taurus frame. We have the 2 Tahoes and we have 1 Ford Explorer.
Right, that one was given to us by MoDOT. Is that the one?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So what's going to be the policy, or has the policy been discussed as far as when those have to be replaced? What's going to happen? Are we going to replace those with a sedan, or are we going to keep some four-wheel drive type vehicles as part of our fleet and some not?
So the discussion that I started with Ms. Sondag, with the city manager, was that I would like to have a fleet, the patrol fleet, to be all Tahoes for a variety of reasons. Obviously, they are not the least expensive vehicle on the state contract, but they do. So every year, the Michigan State Police, they do a full test of all the police vehicles that are available, from motorcycles to side-by-sides to sedans, SUVs. I don't think they do horses, but they do everything else. And typically the Tahoe really comes out on top in terms of performance, officer ergonomics, officer safety, space inside the vehicle. And again, it full disclosure, it is not the least expensive vehicle. Although on the state contract, it is a significantly less, it's not like you're going to the Chevy dealer and buying a $50,000 retail Tahoe. On the contract, the Tahoes are about $36,000, $37,000. So it's a significant difference on the contract. And my original goal was to have the patrol fleet be all Tahoes. That's something that each year I think we need to evaluate. But that's where I would like to go. One of my reasonings, another reasoning for that, is that the Tahoe, if you look at typical repair and maintenance on the Tahoe, the history of it tends to be very good. And I'm hoping to get more years out of each one of these vehicles than we did before. In talking to other agencies that use the Tahoe, they've been able to get, instead of getting 2 or 3 years out of their cars, they've been getting 5 or 6 years out of their cars. I don't want to promise that, because this is our first foray into this, to see if this is, viable for us, but that's where I'd like to go.
If I might.
Yes.
If I might
And now
address-
the other side of the coin.
Right. Yeah, there are more issues than just that. You also you have to look at the police officer is not the only person riding in the vehicle sometimes. So you have to look at issues of accessibility and the ability to get in and out of the vehicle. You also need to look at the and the chief and I, these are things that we need to discuss probably, and things we do discuss during our budget process, which is that some of the things that also happens is they may change the model of that vehicle. It becomes then, and they've been changing the models more and more frequently, if you recall. That then has additional costs with regard to whether or not you can continue to utilize the same lighting systems on those vehicles, which again are not cheap. We also then, in the city of Olivet, we utilize the vehicles. The vehicles move. So a police vehicle is typically 4 years. And about 80,000.
Right now, it's been 2 to 3, Ms. Sondag.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years. with about maybe 80,000 miles, 70 to 80,000 miles. Those vehicles, we don't really get much on resale on those. We do tend to use them for other departments. So one of the things we also need to look at is not just the immediate need of the police department. And while that is important, we wouldn't necessarily pick a vehicle that doesn't work for them, but these vehicles are moving down to other departments. And one of the things that I would have some concerns of is if our we have a lot of employees who in the building department, in the park and recs department, in the public works, is that they end up with these larger vehicles and how long they'll last, and the need. I do think that we need to be continue to be cognizant of the environment as well and the gas usage. So there are, so sometimes we look at wants and we look at needs, and we have to find that middle ground somewhere. And I believe that, I'll just put this on the public record then, that what we've been trying to work out is really a vehicle replacement policy. So that we can move forward and look 5-10 years down, and how's that going to work? We've not been successful in getting that done yet. But if we're going to be looking and making kind of decisions about, well, we want to use these vehicles, we want to use these vehicles for how many number of years, we really need to develop that, that vehicle replacement policy. Probably more than the council ever wanted to know at this point, because this is really more budget discussion, but it's good for the residents to know that we don't just look at one thing here, and our decisions are made over, with all of our department heads kind of looking on and figuring out, what do we need and what do we want, and we have some good discussions and good conversations with that.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I really do. So some of it is my curiosity too, more than anything. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I saw Dave saw the door was open. He was taking it, so I just had to cut him off.
And you just came along and went, shoo, and that was it. That door slammed shut. Okay, then. Did we give this man his vehicles yet? No.
I
All
don't
right.
believe you have.
All right,
I
so-
can put up I believe Councilmember Waldman. has a
Okay,
comment.
since I'm not acknowledged, I'll pop up and I'll vocalize. Chief, these are SUVs that you're talking about, and what comes to my mind is rollovers, fast chases. Now, we typically don't do a lot, but you never know. And my recollection of these vehicles for fast speed and rollover is a safety concern. So as you and the city manager go down the road to have this conversation, if it comes back to us, I want to know the safety factors of being able to deal with a chase, unless in reality, these are just going to be two high post command vehicles. But that's my concern, rollover.
Yeah, and if I could speak to that, as you mentioned, Councilmember Waldman, our pursuit policy is extremely strict, just because of all of the factors involved. And so, there is that. The other thing is these vehicles are tested, excuse me, again, with the Michigan State Police, they are tested at high speeds. They are, these patrol vehicles come pursuit rated. So that is an actual rating that these cars are given. It's one reason why you may not just go to a dealership and buy, whatever model car, because there are certain things that police vehicles do have and are tested that perhaps normal retail models aren't. So that is something that, yes, we do take into account. Although, I'm happy to purchase Lamborghinis, which are much lower to the ground, if that's something that you're advocating for.
That's going to be my weekend car. You can give Sydney the other car. Dibs. All right, I will entertain a motion. Anybody?
I was
Madam Mayor,
logging it. Do you
go ahead.
want to do it? All right, a motion, I make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 Dodge Chargers from Lou Fuse Chrysler Dodge, not to exceed $65,220.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final thoughts? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
that was not a yes for the Lamborghini, by the way.
I think this third thank you is the hat trick, so thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Chief. All right, next item,
He's
please.
not going anywhere yet.
Oh, are you still here? Wow.
Item
that's
number
awesome.
11. Item number 11, authorization for the city manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with Flax Safety. Take it away, chief.
So thank you. Yes, once again, I'm David Wolf. I'm the chief of police with for the Olivet Police Department. This item pertains to a memorandum of understanding with a company called Flock Safety. They are a manufacturer and distributor of automatic license plate readers, or LPRs. And it's the license plate reader technology has been around for a long time. It's one of the things that I really would like to investigate and research into, if it makes sense for the city of Olivet to incorporate this into our toolbox. These particular cameras are stationary. They're not mounted on patrol vehicles, so they would be mounted at a location in the city that we work out with Flock Safety and whomever else we need to work out. And then they monitor traffic and they record license plates. The license plates are then stored on Flock Safety's server in the cloud. After 30 days, the images are deleted, so they're not kept there indefinitely. And the license plate readers and the data that you are able to access are have been shown to be very effective in in solving crime. And in this case, I'd like to hope that in our toolbox they help prevent it as well. One of Flock Safety's or Flock Safety's vision or idea is that they are able to market these cameras not only to law enforcement agencies, but also to private businesses. So they could market the camera to a business developer, or to a neighborhood association or something like that. And then those cameras could monitor their, those properties as well. The private individual is able to go into their own camera and search for any type of, if they have an incident that happens, they can go in and search for any vehicles that may have been in the area at the time of the incident. And that's all they have access to. The law enforcement portal gives us a wider range of search options. So with this MOU, the Olivet Police Department will be able to search the network of Flock Safety cameras. And there are 3 other departments in the area, 1 who has purchased them, 2 who are in pilot programs with them. And so the data that those cameras collect with our MOU, we would be able to see that data as well, and they would be able to see ours. And so this is like I said, this is a piece of technology that I'm wanting to research to see if it makes sense for us.
Questions?
Madam Mayor, I do. Wow. Wow. I'm really uncomfortable with this, but that's just personally. I recognize we have a job to do. So because I am uncomfortable with this, I will support us going forward for you, Chief, but I'm going to want to know more information. I have to understand this better. How does knowing a license plate help to solve a crime? I'm not getting the dots here at all.
Well, perfect example. And I think, I think I understand, you say you're uncomfortable. I think I understand that. And my guess is there's a fine balance that we have to find between civil liberties and security. And I think that, we are not asking to place these cameras in some spot that everything is not already in plain view. The cameras are not for lack of better words, prejudice. They're capturing everything. They're not capturing specific things. It's not as if you can even go in and program it to capture specific things. It's capturing everything in that area. They are motion activated, so it could capture a person. However, the search function of the camera does not allow you to search for a specific gender or race or clothing. Now you could do a search for all images and it would bring up everything that was in that area at that time, but you couldn't go in and specifically search for a specific person. And so these cameras aren't going to be in a place where there isn't already not an expectation of privacy. And the memorandum of understanding is something that Flock Safety presented to us. It was shared with myself and Ms. Sondag. Mr. Martin was gracious enough to revise it a few times and send it back. And it was, finally decided upon that this was a good working model. And so I think I understand, where your uncomfortableness is and where people might be uncomfortable with it. However, a perfect example, the license plate of the vehicle that was involved in the 170 murder was caught on camera. And that was a huge break in that case. Now, it wasn't an LPR, it was just a surveillance camera, but really no different. I mean, it's doing the same thing with the exception of the LPR camera is a much higher resolution. And so the legibility or the readability of the license plate will be much clearer and much better. And so, it's a way to gather leads. It's not as if, something happens and then investigators go and they question every single license plate that drove by at that time. But certainly it's a way that if a house is broken into or if a store is robbed, Olivet is, we are more prone to property type crimes than we are crimes against persons, knock on wood. However, property crimes are more difficult to solve than crimes against persons because typically crimes against persons, the people know each other somehow. There are connections, there's people to talk to. When it comes to property crimes, many times it's a crime of opportunity. It just happens because it happens when it happens. And so generating leads can be very difficult. If there's a camera in the area that captures a license plate, it's at least a place for investigators to start. Or if the victim says, "Oh yeah, it was a red truck sped out of the parking lot," investigators are able to go into the system and put in, Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the morning, red trucks. And then it will bring up all the red trucks that may have been in the area. And it's at least a place to start. And again, I'm not asking that, that we put these cameras in an area that isn't already in public view, if that helps any.
I respect what you said. I come from law enforcement. I grew up with law enforcement. I get and understand that you need the tools. It's just an uncomfortable thing that I just kind of, felt more conversation had to be had. And if Mr. Martin, there's anything, I don't know whether you had anything to add, but Chief, I do appreciate this dialogue.
Let me just, before Mr. Martin adds his, are there any other questions for the chief?
No, ma'am.
Sydney? Chief, what's the range of these in terms of either feet, square feet, miles, whatever?
Very good question, and I do not know that. We may have the representative from Flock Safety might be on the call or might be at the meeting.
Is that Denise? Is that Lisa?
Lisa, yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Can we bring
Would
her
the
over?
council like me to bring Lisa Dunn over as a panelist?
I would.
Sure.
Okay, Lisa, you are now You're now on.
Let me, if I may, just expand a little bit on my questioning. Um, I have to say, quite frankly, I am as uncomfortable as Missy, if not more so, about this. I think that we are continually being observed in so many different ways that we don't even realize it. And it makes me extremely uncomfortable to add one more to that whole thing. In addition to which, getting to my question, while one camera is interesting, you know, it might be an interesting exercise, I don't know how much space it covers, and therefore how many cameras would we need inside the city of Olivet to effectively be able to surveil the entire city? And I'm trying not to be pejorative in using that word surveil, but I mean, that's what it is. I mean, we're watching license plates. We're looking at license plates, and then you're storing them, and then, you know, we're going to use them, but that's a lot to unpack.
And,
Can you-
and Lisa, if I could just jump in real quick, what I would say to that, Madam Mayor, is, you know, one, for this pilot project, just to give you, you know, I'm not looking for cameras on every street corner. You know, I would put them, you know, for the pilot project, I would be looking for 2, perhaps one, you know, at one major intersection and one at another. And so it's not cameras everywhere. And again, I understand your uncomfortableness. And also the data is not randomly scrolled through by investigators. It's not as if these images are being captured and then, you know, just for the heck of it, we're scrolling these people's license plates to see what we find. It's really to identify leads when we know that something's happened in a particular area.
But the thing is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the camera isn't in that area, then you either have to hope that the perpetrator has come through the camera at a different, you know, at some point.
Correct.
Or you have to do old-fashioned police work to get the crime solved. And I understand what you're saying. Some of these crimes of opportunities are very difficult to solve. But so I guess now I'm looking for the answer to my question. How big of an area does it cover?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great questions. I mean, this always comes up, you know, in every, especially new area that we enter. One thing I'd like to say about the coverage of the area. So basically we can cover up to 2 lanes of traffic. And the camera is up about 12 to 14 feet high, and typically on a light pole or on a flock safety pole. And what it will cover is just a small radius from an angle to be able to capture that 2 lane of traffic.
If I may interrupt 1 second. So are you familiar with Olive Boulevard?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Are you familiar with Olive?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to put your camera, and please, if this is where it was going to go, I have no idea where it was going to go. So I'm just randomly choosing the intersection of Dealman and Olive, and you point it westward. How far west are you going to be able to see? Or
it is not that far. I mean, it is within just, oh gosh, I'm terrible at feet. I mean, it's right there at the intersection. You're not going to be able to go like, I mean, to all the way.
Not even 250 feet up the road?
No, not even, I wouldn't even say 250 feet. No, it is just that immediate capture of those plates. So one thing I also want to at least let you know is the company was started when to go after HOAs. And that's who they sold to preliminary, or, you know, to start with. And the reason why so many HOAs and private businesses are okay with this is because we really strive to meet the ACLU guidelines. So for instance, one of their guidelines is that we cannot, that they don't want LPR to be stored for innocent people for a lengthy time. And we only store it for 30 days. After 30 days, it's gone. And this information of license plates, you know, you can get that, I mean, you know, off the DMV, you know, any of those websites. This is primarily to help, you know, solve and eliminate crime. So any areas that we've inputted, you know, put these in, we have been able to solve kidnappings. There was one in Wichita, you know, it was Christmas Eve. And unfortunately, you know, the person left his car running and his child in the car. Someone came to steal the car. Within less than an hour, they were able to solve and find that child in that vehicle because of the flat cameras. And there's news articles about that. Same with back in August, there was a kidnapping in Cobb County. So that's another, you know, huge use case is for those type of situations. And I'm speaking a lot about Wichita just because that's one of our largest ones in this, you know, Missouri, Kansas area. And since they deployed as of November 9th, they have been able to have 106 arrests of marijuana, other drugs, guns, everything that you can imagine because of utilizing Flock Safety's cameras.
So, Madam Mayor, I can't see you, so I don't, you know, I don't know if you
There we go.
you were done with your thoughts.
I'm willing to, I'm just willing to let this discussion roll a little bit, and then I'm going to put something out to the council that I'm kind of thinking about in my head, but keep rolling.
So, so not even 250 feet, just 2 lanes. What is the cost for this?
So it is a $2,500 per camera, and that's per year. And that's going to cover your storage fees. That's going to cover your cellular data, the camera, the warranty, the software, the users, all that information, or, you know, things that you will need. It will
So software for a year? Did I hear you right? I'm sorry.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the non-techie here is going to ask a question now. Greg, Darren, Barb, look. After 30 days, it's gone. Convince me that in this technology of today, here today, gone tomorrow. What? Is it really gone?
It can be. I mean, to the point where it could not be recovered, it can be. Depends on how you go about it. I know you hear that, you know, you delete something on your disk and it's still there. There are ways to keep that from happening. And if it's implemented correctly, it can be gone. If you don't implement it correctly, it's still there. So
I'm actually more interested to know what's the end game, Chief? How many cameras do you want?
You know, and like I said, preliminary, whatever I'm trying to say.
From
You
the
know, for the pilot project, again, I'm looking for 2 cameras. And I'm not looking for, again, I'm not looking for numerous cameras all over the city because I think that that's overkill. Now, if, you know, if Flock markets to HOAs or private businesses and they want to take advantage of the technology, then that's, you know, then that's up to them. And then we have that network. But, you know, my gut feeling is a couple, 3 cameras.
If I
At
might-
major,
Good.
That, I just want to make sure that this is straight. This is a pilot project that we wouldn't be paying for.
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so prior to, if you wanted 2 to 3 cameras, that would go through the next year's budgeting process. And so just to let you know, it's important to know where he's going down the road. I agree, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to be clear is that we're not asking anybody to expend any funds at this point.
Right, and I'm not asking for, exactly. I'm not even asking for next year's budget right now. I'm asking for, the memorandum for the pilot program. The other thing,
So,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but I mean, by signing the MOU, we have access to that data, whether we have cameras or not, correct, Lisa?
That is correct. So right now, there are the other departments that are utilizing them. And in order to be able to share or have access to, other departments, then they would have to have this memorandum of understanding. And that's again, another part of our, ethical guidelines that we try to meet. So like HOAs, if they allow the police department to have access to them, they have to have, this paperwork to be able to do that.
Wait a second, let me see if I understand. They have to have what paperwork to be able to do that?
A memorandum of understanding, basically saying, stating that, they agree that, in their contract, they agree that the police department, can view this footage, or that this police department can view this footage, because we want to make sure that, because the customer, whoever purchases these, have 100% ownership of it. Flock Safety does not. And so the only way for other departments or anyone else to have access to it, you have to have the memorandum of understanding.
But are
So
all,
with
are
this,
all,
I'm sorry.
are all memorandums of understanding the same? So if we were signing this memorandum of understanding, are the other departments that are using this, are their memorandums of understanding the same as this one, where everyone is given access to the information? All the police departments are given access to the ultimate amount of information? Or is each MOU a different MOU, and you have to then allow that police department to come in? Maybe that's.
You have to be able to allow that police department to come in.
So let me just see if I understand this correctly. The subdivision next to mine purchases one of these, and they have a memorandum of understanding with Flock. But they say, no, we're not going to allow the Olivet Police Department to have access to our camera. That's for us and us alone. They have a right to do that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we have some subdivisions that do that. We have some that say, no, I want kind of like your Ring cameras. So if when you have your Ring camera and you have that video footage, what do you do when something's stolen off your front porch? You take that video footage and you bring it to, the police department. And then that's what they utilize to try to solve the crime. Well, instead, this way, they say, okay, here's the video footage from that time because there was a car stolen in this subdivision or kidnapping in this subdivision between this time and this time. They can do, they do this search for it. They find that, the vehicles that pass through during that time, and then they give that to the police department to help solve the crime.
So they don't have to give them complete access. They give them what they think they need, which they may not know whether they need it or not. I mean, that.
I could chime in,
ahead.
Mayor. When you go to the contract under exclusions, it clearly states a disclosure of confidential information that's legally compelled to be disclosed pursuant to a subpoena, summons, order, or other judicial or governmental process, or federal or state freedom of information, FOI, FOIA, laws shall not be considered a breach of this MOU, provided the receiving party shall provide notice as promptly as is reasonably and practically possible, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, if you got a crime going on and the police want to know something, here you go. You go to the courts, and then your confidentiality is
Out the window.
Is an exclusion and out the window. I mean, look, I'm not here to argue this as being ugly. I get it, Chief, and I'm going to give you my vote. I get it. But It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
And I get that too, council member. I understand that too. And that's why I said, I think there's a balance between civil liberties and security. And Madam Mayor, to address your question a little bit more, the end game is to, obviously, again, not looking for cameras all over, but to have these in higher traffic areas. Yes, at some point you're betting that this car is, would pass through the area monitored by the camera. So, but if we're able to, if we know where, say the majority of our property crimes are happening, and this is where we stick the camera, the likelihood increases that we would, that we would be able to do that. I would like to think that, stuff like this obviously is becomes public knowledge. And I would hope to think that, perhaps perpetrators who know that this technology is here would be less likely to come here.
Valid point. If I can get one more piece of clarity, I heard the city manager say it's not costing us anything this year, but I heard the representative identify $2,500 a camera for the year.
If the city manager and you guys gave approval to move forward with any kind of purchasing and we decided to purchase, that's the cost, $2,500 a year per camera. For this pilot project, which is just to see, does it even make sense for Olivet?
Mhm.
There's no cost to us.
Okay. And for a year?
Well, for as long, once we sign the MOU is good for 5 years. If they give us a couple cameras for a month or 2 months and we decide it's not for us, we don't ever pursue the cameras. The MOU is still standing. So we would still theoretically have access to the data if we needed it. We just wouldn't have cameras.
I have one last question. This question is for Paul. There have been numerous challenges to the red light cameras, and those red light cameras have essentially gone away. The red light cameras, if we all remember, they take a photo of your car and its license plate going through a red light, and a ticket is sent to you, the owner of the car, for that infraction. And it was ruled that these were not legal. So in the same vein, we've got cameras watching and looking at license plates. How is that working?
Well, the problem with red light cameras in Missouri is that Missouri statutes that govern traffic regulation do not authorize cities to adopt this kind of an ordinance, a traffic enforcement ordinance where you have an obvious moving violation, the car moving through the intersection in violation of the light, and having cities call it a non-moving violation. The court said, you really can't do that. This is a moving violation, and that's all there is to it. So if with red light cameras, if they wanted to do that and call it a moving violation and give due process and make sure they had a picture of a picture of the driver to establish who was driving the car, then I think that the red light camera scheme would be upheld. But that's not the way it goes here in Missouri. Here, as the chief said, this isn't a situation where we are taking pictures or utilizing pictures that are taken in any private place. It's out in public. There is absolutely no reasonable expectation of privacy that someone isn't going to look at your license plate number, or someone isn't going to see you walking down the street or driving away from crime. So the program's legal. And I would like also to say that the folks, Flock, worked with us on the contract in a satisfactory manner, and I really appreciated that. But it's a policy question, and you've touched on all the issues that you might want to raise in considering whether you want to do this, and it's completely your determination.
And Mr. Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not the red light camera itself that's illegal. It was the procedures and steps that were happening after that. And so in this case, the data from this are, they're simply leads, potential leads, to be followed up on before there's any sort of charges or, assumption of guilt, for sure.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I was a little obtuse in trying to explain it, I'll just sum it up. Cities can only do what state law allows us to do. And in red light cameras, what the cities were trying to do is establish a moving violation going through the intersection as a non-moving violation. And the court said you can't do that. Had nothing to do with the cameras themselves.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I'm not going to be able to support this. I have a real problem with the camera thing and all of that. And I know we have lots of cameras everywhere, and you go into major cities and they have that, but I have not been shown for me that this is going to cover a wide enough area to do what it needs to do. And that's just these are my personal ethics. I can't support this, but the other, if you want us to vote on it tonight, that'd be fine. The other option is for us to take this into a workshop and really sit down and hammer this out in terms of how we feel about all of this as a policy issue and a thought process, and kind of work that through. And I'm asking the council what they think. If this vote comes down and it's 3 yes and I'm the Lone Ranger, then that's fine. But if it's going to be a 2-2 or 3-1 the other way, I don't know if you want to have further discussion on it and just table it.
I'd like to have further discussion on it because I really want to make sure that I'm making a good decision on it, and I want to know more before I make that decision.
Greg? I can't.
I know, sometimes I'm mute, sometimes I'm not. I got to figure it out first.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I would like more discussion on it. I don't think I have the same, I don't know exactly how to say it, the same kind of response as everyone else does, but it is concerning to some extent. So I don't think I'm as concerned as everyone else, but it still is concerning. So I don't think it would hurt to have a discussion.
Chief, I know that you would like to get this program underway.
But I want it underway with blessing. So that's, if there's further discussion, that's the road it needs to take.
Okay. Are you all
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
while you didn't ask my position,
No, I was getting, Missy.
Okay,
I was
all right.
getting to
Okay,
you.
sweetie. All right, sweetie. I thought you were moving on.
No,
I obviously, I agree with that we need more conversation, but I want to kind of go over to the side of Greg and say, Chief, I hear you, and I would be, even without additional conversation at this point, I would be willing to let you have that trial phase to try to show me something about the functionality or the purpose of this program. So I think we need more conversation. I support it. Obviously, that's where we're going to go. But I want you to know that I would consider supporting it to give you the opportunity to show us how it could be helpful. So thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay,
So-
that's okay. I think that in light of this conversation, I would like to move this off of our agenda for the purpose of voting on it and put it in either a workshop agenda and we're starting to fill our February workshop agenda. And I don't necessarily want to push this, Chief, into March. So I don't know if we can have a special meeting about it. At the risk of, opening up tons of cans of worms. You know, I would like to really have a more thorough conversation and maybe chart out, even with the chief, you know, how are we going to know this is really working when you come back to us the next time? All of those things. And I think the chief needs to be in on that conversation with us. I think he needs to sit there with us and we really need to hash this out. So Barb, your thoughts?
I think one of the thing that the city attorney said, Paul Martin, this is policy.
Yeah.
And so this discussion is happening at the right place. And I think that I would agree. I think that the council should have it maybe at a work session, either February, or you can have a special meeting. It's, you know, we'd have it by Zoom. Chief and I can look at, you know, talk a little bit more about what can we show you. We'll work with Lisa on what it would look like. And then we can also maybe have maybe a little better form plan for where we kind of see this going in the future. Because, you know, I think that you do need to have kind of a good understanding of the policy behind this. It may not hurt also for us to have go in with a good understanding too of what are we currently doing? Where currently are we storing information that we have, you know, and that puts it kind of into, you know, a relative place of, you know, kind of current practices, future practices. These questions are going to just continue to get us, you know, we've talked before about cameras are everywhere now. And how do we want to, you know, how does the city of Olivet, how do we want to move forward? I think it's a good conversation for the council. I think it's a good conversation for residents.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I really do want to move this into a workshop, and I want to give it a considerable amount of time, because while this is a pilot program, I think the choices we make now will have far-reaching implications. I mean, yes, we could shut the program down at any point in time, but I don't think that's realistic. I think it's hard to do that once you've moved forward. It's hard to come back. So I want to make sure that we go into this with our eyes wide open and we know exactly what we're doing. And if it fits, great. And if it doesn't, that we all can say no and feel comfortable saying no if that's the way it's going to go. So let's schedule this. If I know February is getting jam-packed. So
if the council would like, I think maybe the mayor pro tem and I have a meeting tomorrow. Maybe we can look about where we can place this on the agenda, and then we can send an email out trying to find a date that works for everybody.
are you guys good with that?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. All right. All right, Chief. Thank you. Lisa,
Thank you,
thank you so
guys.
much for coming to the meeting, and thank you for answering our questions. You'll probably hear lots more from us, or through the chief from us. So I do appreciate your patience with us, though. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for your consideration on the, you know, at least on the idea.
Hey, you went 4-1 today at 3. Whatever. You did fine.
Right?
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could just, you know, it's a technology issue for me again. If I could ask, when we're having these conversations, I can't see like I can see now. I can see everybody, or I know if someone's talking, or I know, you know, Ruth, that you were getting ready to call me. I couldn't see anything. So, you know, for me to be able to know what's going on, if there's that ability when we're having the full group conversation, if we could see everybody, and instead of what maybe be the documents on the screen, so that, you know, I'm just more mindful of what's going on, and vice versa.
Okay, we'll try to keep that in mind when we're doing this discussion. But yeah, tomorrow, after Sydney and I meet with Barb, we'll figure it out and then send out something for everybody to think about too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
because I didn't mean to cut you up, but I couldn't see, and it sounded like you were moving on, and I think being able to see everybody, it would have been clear.
Do we need to make a motion, or we're just?
Nope,
we
you
discussed
have
this?
the ability, the mayor just moved it to a different meeting.
Okay, great. All right, next item.
Okay,
And this
guys.
is not going to be you, Chief. This is,
No,
I
it's
know.
not. I'm going to say goodnight.
Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you.
Thank
Move the chief back to
Good
the
night.
10th.
Take care. Thank you.
Then the next item,
Item number 12, Urban Dark Sky Certification Application, Stacy Park.
okay. and
Folks,
let
I'm
me
gonna go
bring-
black for a second because I gotta go get my charger.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us know.
Mhm.
I'm gonna bring the Beverly Tucker Knight over, the Park and Recs Director. Chief Knox would like to light up the town with cameras, and Beverly Tucker Knight would like to keep our parks dark.
That's Chief Wolf.
That's, I was, or Chief Wolf. Chief Wolf. I was gonna say Chief Andruski.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and
evening.
Council and City Manager. I won't start the presentation till Councilmember Clark, or sorry. I always get the pro tem Chairman Pro Tem Sydney Clark is back. But I do want to say that I'm not asking for any money this evening.
Oh, there's a relief. Because we gave it all away to the chief. You'll have to run him down to get it.
Pretty much,
Or
pretty
equipment,
much.
or equipment yet. No equipment, huh?
We gave it to him tonight.
Yes, yes. So, so while we're waiting for Sydney to come back, I will start sharing my screen if that's okay.
Sure.
See if I can figure out how to do that.
And if Sydney doesn't come back in 10 minutes, he's ditched us.
Hey, Barb, I don't see that control in my view.
You should have control for share screen.
Got it. I got it. I got it. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, excellent. And can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Terrific. So this evening, I'm just waiting to see. Oh, Sydney's back. Great. Okay, terrific. Okay, so this evening I'm going to provide a presentation to give an overview of what the application before you is this evening regarding the potential for certifying Stacy Park as an urban dark sky area. So this evening, I'll give you the PowerPoint presentation that we shared during the work session, but I'd like to go over it again because we have residents watching this evening. So the Dark Sky Association works to protect night skies for the present and future generations. And they have a series of programs that help people get better views of the skies. They do a lot of educational programs and outreach, and they monitor areas to track how much light is being emitted from rural and urban areas. But one of the things they do is they certify urban locations that have a better chance of seeing a dark sky. And we have 5 parks in our city without a tremendous amount of auxiliary light, and they are prime candidates for certification during this program. We became aware of the dark sky program as we were doing research for our own buildings. So the community center on Grandview and Stacy Park on Old Bonham Road both had complaints from neighbors about our lights shining into their homes. So we started replacing the lights at the community center to have shielded lights and to also use some motion sensor lights instead of using big lights that would go past our property lines. In the process of doing that, we learned a lot about making sure that we were good neighbors with our lights. And we also learned a little bit about the International Dark Sky Association. And then we have a volunteer in our Weed Warriors program, Stephanie Todd, an Olivet resident, who came to us with the idea of certifying Stacy Park because it is so dark as an urban dark sky location. There are a couple dark sky locations already certified in our area. One is the Arch Grounds down on the river where the arch is. That's an urban dark sky certified park, national park. And then Castlewood State Park is a state park that's certified, but currently there are no municipalities in the state of Missouri that are certified as urban dark sky locations. So to understand kind of what the certification is, I'd like to review what light pollution is. So there are three main types of light pollution: sky glow, glare, and light trespass. The first one is called sky glow, and this is something that probably a lot of us have seen or experienced, and this is where you're in one location and you can see light in the horizon at night coming from another location. So the sample photograph that you have here, I'm going to try my laser pointer for the first time. Can you see my laser pointer? I just learned how to do this. It's very exciting. So if you can see it, I'm going to be really happy.
Yep.
We do.
Great. So this photograph is taken in Tucson, Arizona as a sample, and you can see the mountains here, and the light shining behind this is the light coming up over the mountains from the city of Tucson. So this is a rural area. You have astronomers over here. You can see they're using red lights to see what they're doing, because red lights allow our pupils to stay dilated a little easier to get a better view. This up here is the Milky Way, that if this sky glow weren't here, you would be able to see the Milky Way in this position out here in Tucson. So that's just an explanation of what sky glow is. Glare is something that I think we all experience almost on a daily basis. So glare is when you suddenly have a bright light that shines directly in your eye, coming in kind of at either directly or at a low angle instead of coming in from overhead. So what happens is it immediately causes your pupils to restrict, which reduces your vision, but it also can be so bright it hurts you. So for example, when you're driving at night and a car headlights come at you from the other direction, it can blind you. So it actually can be can be a safety hazard. It can also hurt your eyes. And some people, particularly now with those bright LED headlights, a lot of people will see stars for a little bit afterwards. The third one is light trespass. And this is when you're in an area where lights that are not on your property are coming into your property. So here you have an example of townhomes, and they have a series of streetlights, and the streetlights are unshielded and they're shining directly into the townhome. So some people view this as a private property rights issue. So what are the consequences of this light pollution? So there are three main consequences: ecological, energy, consumption-wise, and health of humans. So a lot of us are aware of impacts on animals from light pollution. One that a lot of people are aware of are turtles. So when you vacation in Florida or parts of the Pacific or California or anywhere there are sea turtles that hatch, you'll oftentimes in your hotel or your Airbnb or where you're staying, there'll be signs that tell you at certain times of the year to keep your shades shut. And that's during turtle hatching season, because turtles need the light from the moon, the stars, and the glow on the surf to find their way to the sea when they hatch. But in areas where there is a resort buildup in these ocean or beach areas, the turtles can get very disoriented, and they will track towards the light of the buildings instead of going out to sea. So that's one of the reasons that you see those signs in those places that you vacation, to give them a better chance of hatching and surviving. Another animal that is impacted by lights at night are fireflies. So fireflies in our area have, their population has dramatically reduced over the last decade in particular through numerous sources. One, pesticides in our lawns, and then removing our leaf litter. But a primary issue is all the additional light that is around our homes and in our parks. So in particular, the new LED lights have a blue spectrum that causes us discomfort, but also it makes it incredibly attractive for fireflies. And so they're attracted to those lights instead of finding their mates. Another animal that has an incredible impact by light at night are birds, particularly migratory birds. So where we are in the St. Louis region, we sit on the Mississippi Flyway. And the Mississippi Flyway is what birds use to migrate between Canada and up north and going down through the Gulf of Mexico and then even across into South America. And the Audubon Society estimates that there can be between 100 million and 1 billion birds dying every year because as they are flying, they use the stars and the moon for their navigation. But when they come through urban areas, they're confused by the lights that are shining up from the ground, and they'll gravitate towards those lights. And when they come down into the lights, they can't find their way out. They get trapped in the building areas, and they end up either striking the buildings or they fall down on the ground and they can't find food or water, and they end up dying of exhaustion. So the Mississippi Flyway has 40% of North American migratory shorebirds and waterfowl flying through it, and we sit right on it. So lights in our area have a dramatic impact on birds. In your packet tonight, there's an article from Washington University and what some of the students there do going around tracking birds that have gotten lost at night and trying to either count how many are there, but also try and save them as well if they can. Another environmental impact is to trees and plants that grow near lights. So you have an example here of a street light. And when the street light is on, its light shines in an arc down onto the ground. And in the areas where the light is hitting this tree, the leaves will come out earlier, they'll stay longer. And then you can see that the pattern of the leaves that are not in the area with the light have not, they've lost their leaves sooner. So what happens is that it can impact the life of the tree. It's not growing as well as it should. It can shorten its life, and it can also it's a little bit unsightly. So that happens with a lot of different plants that are exposed to artificial light. And then when we look at the energy consumption, because we use so much light, extra light that we don't really need, it really hits us in our pocketbook. It can cost a lot of money. There's estimates by the International Dark Sky Association that worldwide $3 to $7 billion is spent every year in unnecessary lighting, and that we then burn an additional 21 million tons of CO2 to create the energy for that lighting. And then human health is, as always, very complex, but melatonin is a hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle. A lot of people have heard that tone before. A lot of people can sometimes take melatonin supplements to help them with sleep. And the American Medical Association has done a lot of studies about the impacts of light at night through our sleep patterns and our overall health. And they recommend that we make sure that the light we use in our homes doesn't exceed more than 3,000 Ks. And I'll show you later on what that is, what that means. So another thing that comes along with light is that one of the most important things we use light at night is for safety. And when we use our lights for safety, it's really important that we set them up correctly so that we get the best benefit out of them. And what happens with some lights that are put in incorrectly, that are shining out and either causing that glare in our eyes or providing light trespass, they can actually hide our potential dangers and not work to their potential of providing safety for us. So that here's a close-up of that picture. So you see here, this is an unshielded light outside of a doorway on a home, and there's an open gate. There's a person standing in this gate, but because the camera here is the eye that we're seeing, which standing in for the human eye, you cannot see this person. But when the cameraman holds up a hand to shield that light, then your eyes can then focus better and you can actually see the person that's hiding in that darkness. So that's one of the reasons that police departments recommend shielding lights. They also recommend using motion sensor lights that come on and off. So there's many different things that we can do to make sure that the lights we're using are appropriate for safety. And now my wonderful light is preventing me from advancing my slides. Let's see if I can turn that off. There we go. Wow! Technology. Did I get it back? There we go. Okay. Phew. All right. So light pollution has been increasing 2% per year. This is a great model that shows you just since, let's see, just in the last, since the 1950s, how much light has increased across the US. So it's quite a dramatic visual to see how much artificial light has increased across the US. And what's happened is now only 2 out of 10 people on the entire Earth are able to see the Milky Way when they walk outside at night. And estimates are that 90% of people in the United States and in Europe live under skies that have light pollution. There's a great story from 1994. The Northridge earthquake hit the LA basin and it struck at 4:30 a.m. It's one of the most powerful earthquakes we've had in North America. And it knocked out all the power to the LA basin. And when people went outside, because they were woken up, they went outside at night, a lot of people looked up and they saw a strange silvery cloud in the sky at night. And a lot of people called the Griffin Observatory to say, hey, what am I seeing? What is that what is that strange cloud? And of course, it was the Milky Way, and people were seeing it for the very first time, because if you were born and raised in Los Angeles, probably never had the opportunity to see that. And this is a great photo record that shows you exactly the LA basin. So on the left, you have 1908. This was taken from Mount Wilson Observatory, which is about 20 miles from downtown Los Angeles. So it's on the mountain. This is downtown Los Angeles, 1908. Here it is in 2017. So you can see just in a little bit over 100 years, it completely covered the entire valley. So you can see that's a dramatic change over the years. And then bringing it closer to home, and now I have that same issue again. Bringing it closer to home, this is a aerial view of the Highway 70 corridor between Kansas City and St. Louis. So you can see between 2012, 2016, and 2020, you can see a dramatic increase in light coverage. These dark markings on the screen here and here are actually cloud cover, so the satellite wasn't able to get that image. Okay, but so what can we do? What can we do about these impacts now that we know about them? Well, in the Parks and Recreation Department, we started doing investigating, and what does that look like? So lighting design, that's the one of the things that we focused on with the community center, and that will be we've replaced about 90% of our lights, and we'll be doing this, finishing the rest through this year, and we'll be taking care of the light outside the Stacy Park restroom actually in the next month. So the first thing to do is to make sure that our lights are shielding and pointing down instead of up. So here's an example of a fire station that had lights that were shining directly out. And then once they replaced them with lights that were shielded, you can actually see you can get a better view of the fire station itself, and it prevents having that glare go out to their neighbors and to people driving by. This is the K rating I was telling you about before, which K stands for Kelvin, and the Kelvin is the color. So on the left-hand side are the warm lights, and on the right-hand side are that blue spectrum. And this is where the American Medical Association recommends that we try and stay in here. Of course, you're gonna need these for certain things if you are doing maybe close needlework, or if you were working in an operating theater. Of course, you'd want something like this. You'd really want the daylight. But when it's time to start thinking about going to bed at night, they really recommend staying down in here to make sure that you aren't going to impact your sleep at night, so you can really get a good night's sleep. And then something else just to cover quickly is intensity and warranting. So intensity means that if we have all these street lights and they're all pointed down and they're pointing at the ground, they still will bounce back up. There still will be light reflected back up into the sky. But by making sure that we put lights where they're warranted instead of not over putting in lights, then we can reduce that. So that means that make sure that when you are putting in street lights in, like, for example, the new community center in that parking lot out there, we don't want to put in more lights than we need. We want to make sure that we really are looking at it, doing a true study to see where the light's shining, do an actual analysis of that. It'll save us money in our installation. It'll save us money in our in our operations. over time, but it also will prevent how much light is bouncing off the parking lot and going back up at night. So making sure that your intensity and your warranty are balanced there. So if anyone is interested, you can always look for the IDA symbol when you purchase lights. If you're interested in for your home or for your business, if you want to make sure that what you're doing and fix that, or there's lots of information on their website. And then what does this mean for us? So in our parks, what we have decided to do is to keep it dark where possible. And we know that this is something that our residents want, because lighting issues came up quite a bit during the parks master plan. A lot of people were very concerned that we didn't overlight the parks, that we don't have lights coming in on any ball fields or walking paths or things like that. That really was something that was brought up quite a bit by our residents. So we want to be good neighbors. We want to make sure that the lights that we use are ones that are providing safety for our customers, but also not shining into the homes of our neighbors. And then as we increase the biodiversity in our parks through doing all of our habitat restoration and getting rid of the honeysuckle and putting in native plants, we're going to attract a lot more monarch butterflies, bees. We have a wonderful population of fireflies in the Stacy Park Prairie. We really want to make sure that we are a haven for this biodiversity and that we aren't adding lights that are going to negatively impact that. I would love that as we continue through these renovations of our parks, that we become a way station, not only for monarchs, but for some of these migratory birds, because we're positioned so well that by increasing the food and the shelter and the habitat for these birds, that I'm really hoping we're going to start to see a lot more of them in our parks. So we were excited by this opportunity to have Stacy Park become the first urban dark sky certified park in Missouri. That would be a wonderful thing for us, but also I think it also recognizes our stewardship of our parkland. And this is something we're doing just for the Parks and Recreation Department. We are not recommending it to go out anywhere else. This is just our internal policy. So it's nice for that to be recognized. And I would love to answer, I would like to say that the Parks and Recreation Department voted to send this to the council. They are in support of it, and they hope that the council will also recommend that this be sent to, this application to be sent in. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I understand what you're saying, Missy, about being able to see everybody's face.
Beverly, just real quick. I think you said the Parks Department voted, and I think you meant the Parks Commission.
I did mean to say the Parks Commission. You're absolutely right. Yes, the Parks Commission. Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Beverly? I think that we covered this last time at our workshop session. So I think all of us had an opportunity then to ask you questions. And if there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Greg, you can do it.
No, I'm
Madam
looking-
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Missy.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the urban dark sky certification application for Stacy Park as recommended by our Park Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final thoughts or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Thank you, Beverly. Let us know.
Thank you.
When will we know?
I don't know.
Well, let us know when we know.
Yes, we'll be submitting the application, and as soon as we know, we'll let everyone know. And hopefully we can even get an article, depending on when it comes in, we could put an article in the newsletter. So
Great.
really
Thank
excited.
you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome.
All right, good night.
Good night. Next item.
Item number 13, hearing from citizens, part 2.
All right, we are back at hearing from citizens. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council, please raise your hand. Barb can bring you over. The drill is we ask that you state your name and address for the record, and you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and please direct them to the chair. Anybody? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up, and so we are going to move along to the next item, please.
Item number 14, review and approval of minutes.
Anybody see anything that needs to be changed?
Madam Mayor, there's a small note that I sent off to to Miss Mandel earlier in the day. It was just a minor typo in one of the
Okay.
notes. That was all.
All right, I don't even know if we have to do that as amended. So I will entertain a motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the city council minutes from the special council meeting 2020, November 17, the council meeting 2020, December 8th, and the council meeting 2020, December 15th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any final thoughts, questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Next item,
Item number 15, city attorney's report.
Mr. Martin.
You're muted.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have no report, but I would like the council to consider having a closed session for attorney-client communications. Potentially discussions about real estate transactions, personnel, and discussions regarding negotiated contracts, which would be under
1,
subs-
2, 3, and 12.
1, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 12. Yes.
Wow. So moved.
All right, Missy has so moved. 1, 3, and we have a second. Please poll the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yeah.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right, I want to thank the audience for attending the meeting. I do not know when the council will return, but we are going to take this into a closed session, which means this will be for the council only. So if anything does need to be reported, it will be reported at the end of the meeting. So thank you, everyone for attending.
Okay.
The council has returned from closed session. I have nothing to report. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Good night,
good
everybody.
evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.